I want to take a quick second today to do another video in my series of videos geared towards first-time concealed carriers. I want to discuss a topic that doesn't often get discussed and that I feel that gets glossed over by a lot of people, and we really should talk about it. And that is, should you even conceal carry at all, and is concealed carry right for you? Now, there are several instances when concealed carry would not be right for you. Now, this may come as a surprise to people that know that I'm such a supporter of everyday carry, that I'm such a supporter of gun rights, but I don't really feel that concealed carry is for everybody. Now, I know some people are going to come down on me like, oh, like I'm somehow turning my back on the Second Amendment by saying that, but I'm sorry, it's just the reality of the situation. When you want to be realistic about the statistics of how safe guns are, like saying, you know, it's okay for gun haters to say, oh, you're 100 times more likely to injure yourself with a gun if you own one than if you don't, and by saying, well, the statistics are 0 if you don't own one, and they're almost still 0 even if you multiply it by 100. If you want to look at things logically like that, you have to be willing to look at the other side of the coin too, and that is the fact that most people are never going to need a handgun in their life to defend themselves. Now, I personally have had to draw my handgun once in my life to defend myself, and I'm glad it was there. So I'm someone who's going to carry every day. And I would tell people, and I have told people in previous videos, you can never know when trouble is going to find you, so it's always best to be prepared. But I can understand if some people choose not to be. One reason why you wouldn't carry is if you're a person who doesn't want to put the extra effort into it, doesn't feel like you want to put that, take that extra responsibility. I mean, you just don't want to go to the steps that you need to do to carry safely. If you feel like that's just something you don't want to do and you want to play the odds and you want to say, okay, my chances of ever needing this gun are so slim that I'm not going to make myself more uncomfortable throughout my day carrying. That's your choice, and I'm totally okay with someone making that choice. I'm not going to act like I'm somehow at greater danger because you choose not to carry. I've never understood why people do that. But you see that all the time. Someone will say, I've chosen not to carry, and 100 people will come in and start acting like they are now somehow at danger because you chose not to carry. It's just not the case. The only person you're taking, the only person whose safety you're taking into account there is your own, and you're the only person you're endangering if you choose not to do something. Now, maybe your family to a lesser degree, but mainly it's you because you probably spend most of the day on your own. Now, so if you just don't want to do it, don't do it. There's nothing wrong with not doing it. Like I say, you're playing the odds, and there's nothing wrong with playing the odds, and there's nothing wrong with knowing that we live statistically in a very safe country, and just deciding that carrying a gun is not something you want to put the effort into doing. Because let's face it, for those of us who do carry every day, it is an effort and there is an added responsibility. There is a certain level of discomfort and there is a certain level of extra, you know, effort you have to put into it, and things that you have to think about every day that you wouldn't have to think about if you were carrying. So I would never fault anyone for deciding that is not for them. Another reason not to carry would be just you're a person who doesn't feel safe carrying. You don't trust yourself to carry a gun. You think that you're not the kind of person that can actually handle a firearm. I know people that are accident prone who know their own limitations, and they know, I'm not going hiking on a dangerous terrain because I'm the person who's going to slip and fall. I'm not going to go mountain climbing because I'm the person who's going to make a mistake and I'm going to fall to my death. There's nothing wrong with knowing your own limitations and knowing something just isn't something you feel comfortable doing. You don't feel safe doing it. Now, I always encourage people to take enough training to the point where they feel comfortable with their guns. But there are some people that will never feel comfortable with a gun on their hip. Never, ever feel comfortable with a loaded gun. They would never feel comfortable with it anywhere other than a locked safe in the house. And even then, they would worry about it. So there are certain people who just don't possess the abilities to feel comfortable with a firearm on their side. And if you're one of those people, don't do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Don't spend every day of your life in misery because of something that might happen but probably won't. You want to take into account your everyday life as opposed when you figure in what things that might go wrong. You also want to figure in, now, do you want to live your life preparing for something bad where you live, you know, you don't enjoy your life? Well, what's the point? Then you just die if nothing ever bad ever happened, and you've just wasted your whole life. I kind of feel the same way about concealed carry. Do it to a point where you feel like it's not affecting you negatively. If it's affecting you negatively, don't do it. If it makes you miserable and it's not for you, don't do it. I'm not going to fault you at all. One last reason for not carrying a gun. If you're not the kind of person that can walk away from a fight, if you're not the kind of person that can trust yourself to control your temper, then maybe carrying a gun daily is not for you. If you're a person who has alcohol or drug abuse, issues, then carrying a gun is not for you. Whether you've been convicted of a crime or not, you probably don't want to have a deadly weapon on you if you make those poor judgments every day. It's probably just not for you, and it's okay to decide In fact, I would prefer you decide I'm not the kind of person that it's safe to have a firearm. Because I know a lot of Second Amendment supporters like to pretend that it's safe for everybody to have a firearm. There are certain people that it is not safe for them to have a firearm. So if you're, like I say, like if you're a person who has a drug addiction, if you have an alcoholism problem, you probably don't want to have a loaded gun on you every day. And I would thank more of you for making that decision than I would for you of supporting the Second Amendment by carrying a gun every day. So I meant to air quote supporting, not Second Amendment. So that's just a valid reason to not carry a gun. If you just don't feel you're capable of it, if you don't feel like you possess the abilities. And like I said, the walking away from a fight, if you're the kind of person who has to get into it every time you feel someone has slighted you, if your ego doesn't let you ever turn a blind eye or walk away from a negative situation, then you probably shouldn't have a gun on you. I'm sorry, I'm not going to blindly support every hothead having a loaded weapon on them. I mean, I know it doesn't statistically affect society all that much, but still, if you're the kind of person and you know that about yourself, if you know your limitations, once again, it's all about knowing your limitations, and you know, I should not have a gun on me, I'm probably liable to go to prison if I ever keep a gun on me, then make the decision to not carry, and no one's going to fault you. I still encourage people to have guns at home. I still encourage them to have means to protect their home and their family, just like I encourage people to have food for a month in their house. And I actually encourage that more. I think you're going to need that more than you are going to need a gun. So even with like the food, chances are 10 years from now you're going to throw away emergency rations and restock it because you're never going to use it. Same thing with a gun, you're probably never going to have to use it. So if you decide that it's not comfortable for you to have it with you every day, I'm not going to fault you. And if anybody does fault you for that, well then they're not really supporting the Second Amendment. They're just angrily supporting their own opinions. They're not supporting anything real.